Just one little click, just one little wrong click, and it set us back 3 minutes, well, now 5 minutes by the time that we've actually started and had all the fluttery, here is mirrored orbit. But here we are at long last, out of the White Hart in Lewes, East Sussex in the UK. White Hart Hotel, famous for being considered the cradle of American independence, because this is where Tom Paine mulled over and developed his thinking on the rights of man, and who then went off to the Americas and said to the colonists, no aid is coming from anyone in government, you better rebel. So they did, and now we've got the United States. He said it all started here, right here where I'm sitting, with the rafters still the same, the room is still the same, and hopefully other people now developed. I'm not still the same. I'm not quite that old. Getting on for it, but not quite that old. Anyway, good morning, and the temperature outside today is 18 with a moderate breeze, so it's going to be rather a nice day and sunny for most of the day, happy to say, and that is reflected in the looking out of the high street, and you can safely go out, and the chance of rain is minimal, not much chance at all. Having said that, you know what can happen. All right, we're underway, and we need to decide what we're going to say. And what we're going to say is really dictated by those people who we still call it Fleet Street, and it's not, of course. It's mostly in Docklands now. The old Fleet Street has gone, except a few landmarks, particularly the pubs, remain. And although it's now quartered mostly by solicitors, is still the old Fleet Street aura remains. Don't know that they drink quite as much. Pity, really, because the papers aren't anywhere near as good. There we go. That's the price you have to pay for purity. No drinking, a rotten product. Oh, am I going to get myself into trouble this morning? All right, but let's take a look at what the newspapers are saying. Basically, the BBC are rounding up their view of the front pages by saying newspaper headlines are to rip up the border deal and Dame Deb's honoured. We'll get around to Dame Deb's being honoured in a little while. But first of all, let's go to the newspapers to see what to rip up the border deal is all about. And it's the Daily Express is the first paper for our review. And the front page of the Daily Express is Defiant Trust. We'll rip up Brexit border deal. And essentially what she's saying is that the deal that was made as part of Brexit to separate Ireland, a member of the EU, and Northern Ireland, not a member of the EU, was cumbersome, that it's not working, that it's a farce, and imposes hardships on both countries that were never intended by us leaving the EU. And so we're going to rip up the deal and start all over again. The fact of the matter is, of course, is the people in the EU don't like that one little bit. Oh, no, they do not like that one little bit. So we're hearing the squeals of outrage already from Brussels, and also from those publications which still, despite all, support our membership in the European Union. Never agreed with Brexit, and even though it became law and the will of the people, found every reason to decide that was not the case, that they are right and that we should be still a member of the EU, but we're not. So we have to look at the practicality. And the practicality is that that particular border, which goes through the Irish Sea, ain't working. So something has got to be done. We don't expect the bureaucrats in Brussels to do anything about it. So the British government are doing something about it, which may seem to be a bit drastic. But I, being somebody who approves of drastic action, is do it and see what happens. Then what Boris is suggesting it seems to make sense to me. But then again, what makes sense today is we really live in a land and a world that is through Alice's looking glass. Black is white, red is blue. The pound is $1. You name it. Whatever can be reversed has been reversed, and nobody knows quite where we stand with anything. So now the I, not surprisingly, say they lead with the same story, but the Lords try to delay Truss from tearing up the Brexit Pact. So the House of Lords, which essentially is Liberal, has decided it doesn't like what the government is doing, and there is a move afoot to delay Liz Truss in, first of all, ripping up the agreement and then mounting whatever new agreement may come in its place. And the fact of the matter is that the House of Lords is our counterweight. It means that the government can't get away with excesses because it has to explain itself to the House of Lords, which can delay it 3 times before it gets cracking in the House of Commons. So there's every suggestion that we will be okay in terms of the process. That whether it's torn or not, whether things are put in its place, is that the countermeasures, the safety measures are there, and according to the House of Lords is already trying to block the deal, or at least stop it starting in quite the way that it is at the moment. Right, the Daily Telegraph. The former cabinet minister, Lord Frost, has entered the fray. Lord Frost helped write the exit deal from the EU, and he is saying that the Prime Minister must brave it out over the protocol. In other words, he is supporting and saying that really this was an unworkable deal from the start, and that the Prime Minister should do something, and never mind about the criticism and the anti-action group in Brussels. Easier said than done, I may say. It's all very well to say the Prime Minister is the most powerful man in the land, but as we see over the silly nonsense of his ice cake at Christmas, is that there are those who do not approve and do not go along with some of his legislation and some of his ideas and try very hard to stop it. And that is our democratic process. It is the way it should work. But sometimes when it does work that way, it's very frustrating. So, but Lord Frost says, listen, Boris, I am telling you as a man from the center of this whole thing that what you should do is you should face down these people who are not going to give you an ounce of support and get on with the job. All right. The Guardian says that the Americans are so alarmed about the Northern Ireland deal. What the hell it's got to do with them, I have no idea. But you know what things are like nowadays internationally. Everybody thinks that they can interfere in everybody else's affairs. And I suppose that it was ever thus. The only thing is that nobody here doffed their cap and said, excuse me, I'm going to take over Ukraine. Just get out of the way. So there's a US team who's flown in to meet with the various players involved the Irish government, ourselves, the Ulster Assembly, the Northern Ireland Assembly, which is in a bit limbo at the moment because Sinn Féin managed to poll the most votes or get the most seats. So nobody quite knows what's going to happen there. Such is the nature of the world in which we live at the moment. So that's the Guardian that tells us that a team from the US. Now the Sun, she's Dame Debs, and since I don't read the Sun very much, the paper is celebrating a damehood for cancer campaigner, BBC podcast host, and the paper's own columnist, Deborah James. The paper says Miss James captured the hearts of the nation with her honest accounts of her bowel cancer and has raised 3.6 million since she revealed she was receiving end-of-life care. Well, she sounds as if she was some chick, if you'll excuse the expression, and I don't suppose that many people will. So we'll excuse it. So I use it again. She sounds like some chick. And that she's done quite a bit, and therefore I think on the surface she deserves to be given the female version of the knighthood. The Daily Mail. Now, this is a story that is close to my own heart. 91,000 civil service jobs are going to be axed. Boris has got fed up with the delaying tactics, sometimes almost an unelected opposition that comes from the civil service. I said enough is enough. And each ministry has been told to shed X number of staff, X number of civil servants, those that they can do without, and bring the civil service in Westminster down to a manageable level. Now, why would I be celebrating that? I don't like people losing their jobs, but the term Jobsworth has become part of the language, and these people were Jobsworth in the main, and they are locally as well, in the main. They find things for them to do, and then they've found things for them to do from home, and things haven't worked out. So as a consequence, we have got a civil service, as witnessed perhaps by the fiasco of visas for Ukrainians and passports to help get you to your sunny destination this summer. All these things are just being slowed down or axed because the civil service has grown to monumental proportions and has become inefficient. And actually, a lot of the problems that are being suffered by the NHS are down to similar situations. If you want your name on this cup, you can have it. And it costs you a tenner. And why not? It will be a tenner well spent. Okay. So we are going to have the axing of Whitehall. Now, this is going to be a classic struggle because it is always said that the real masters of our country are the civil service, is that they, as witnessed in the comedy series Yes Minister, or Yes Prime Minister, is how the civil service managed to say that the black is white in arguing a case and persuading ministers that they should actually do exactly the opposite to what they said they would do, and the bright ideas that they come up with. And can the government have its way? Doesn't matter whether you approve of what the government is doing. Just for the moment, I'm arguing, can the government get its way? Will the might of the civil service come roaring in and stop them? Oh, well, it's amazing that it's just simply amazing that this sort of situation can exist in modern day Britain. But you see, actually, the term modern day is really a misnomer. We're no more modern than any other generation has been. Is we faff around, we flaff around. We've got computers to help us, except that the computers have taken over. Everybody now relies upon the computer instead of getting it to assist in our daily lives. And that in itself has started to weaken the fabric of our social nature. Man is a social animal. He likes talking to his neighbors, but he also, forgive me, occasionally my Parkinson's kicks in, and one of the manifestations is the throat goes just for a little while. It takes its time, but then it begins to clear again. You'll be pleased to know you won't have to hear the rough. Let's pause, shall we? Let's pause and do my favorite thing. Let us go down to the park, Grange Park. It's nice and calming, and it breaks up all this rubbish and nonsense, which I am duty bound to bring to you. It's a lovely park, that a really, really lovely park. I'm settled back in my chair, so let's adjust the camera to take account of that and see whether I can fill a bit of the screen. And those people who live in Lewes take every opportunity to avail yourself of going down to that park and just easing yourself into almost a little bit of real estate that is cut off from the rest of the world. It's just marvelous. It really is quite lovely. Anyway, back to the case in point, which is looking at the morning's papers. And we were just talking about 91,000 civil service jobs to be axed, according to the Mail. And the Mail is normally tends to lean towards government. It can be a bit naughty sometimes, but so it's probably realistic to think that there is some move afoot to cut back on civil service activity. And we do that by actually hacking jobs. And I have to say that the argument from some cabinet ministers is quite persuasive. There are about 91,000 staff that would be axed. And the £3.5 billion savings would be, that's how much would be saved from us not spending it on the salaries of these people. And with that there would be tax cuts, which this 3.5 billion would help stave off any hole in the treasury. And generally speaking, we would be better off because we wouldn't have the bureaucracy that is really the thing that sticks in Johnson's craw. Right, the Times. The Tories risk losing the next election. Jeremy Hunt, who has appeared over the parapet again, as a candidate for leader of the party and therefore prime minister, is telling Boris, look, this cost of living thing is going to kill you. You could see a Labour government in if you continue to ignore the cost of living crisis. You need to pull out all the stops and make that your number one priority. And I suppose that I would agree with that. But not everybody in Westminster. Just a little adjustment, if you don't mind. Those in Westminster who sort of say, let them eat cake. Yesterday's famous one was let them. The poor don't know how to cook, right? I mean, I had some sympathy for that position too, but it wasn't very well laid out. Being poor is a very emotive word now, and one that we try hard not to use. Right, and the Mirror goes the home of UK's worst COVID lawbreakers, and then it's got a picture of Downing Street. In other words, all the people in lockdown who broke the rules were in our governing body in Westminster, and it doesn't matter which party you're talking about. I mean, it's got to silly proportions now. Where apparently the deputy leader of the Labour Party says that she is going to pursue with full might the nonsense that went on with Boris Johnson and his staff and so on and so forth. She herself is under investigation for a fine. It's Alice through the looking glass. Is right is wrong, left is right, you name it. Nothing is as it appears in Westminster and amongst our governing set. They have managed to find a new language in which they explain why right is wrong and snow is rain. It's quite fascinating the way they do it, but is it to the best interest of the electorate? And I suspect that it's not. I think it's to the best interest of them. And that's where the thinking has got to change. Personally, although I am a great man for having a bar on every corner, and in the great days of journalism, of which I was sort of apparently a part for a short period of time, there were clubs in which everybody piled in at lunchtime to have a drink. And then the new thinking came in, and that's not so now. Believe me, there is no sense of excitement in most of these new operations anymore. It's become so scientific and done by the book, and nobody takes a drink. And in some instances, businesses have monitored local pubs to make sure that their employees don't actually go there at lunchtime. It's just it's crazy in the extreme. However, the reason that I say that is that I hate to see subsidized bars go. But I think that what I would do is I would stop all subsidies. You can keep the restaurants, but everything is done at a commercial rate. You stop all the perks that they get, traveling first class, so they can work. But what about the rest of us who have to work on the train? We'd love to go first class, paid for by somebody else. Yeah. Not likely, is it? Oh, not likely at all. Right. Okay. So the metro shot in the back, and this is a very unhappy situation, because there are more and more eyewitness accounts of abuses by the Russian military over the civilian population in the Ukraine. And one of them is that somebody is now testifying that they saw and they actually have a piece of video. Two Russian soldiers conversing, looking at some civilians standing on a corner, pointing their rifles, and the two civilians slumped to the ground. Now, if that sort of thing is going on from the Russian army, or Russian military, Russian armed forces, I suppose we call them now, then certainly some investigation needs to be undertaken. And that is not a very, very nice thing to do. Not a very nice thing to do at all. Which newspapers? That's the Metro, the London paper, is highlighting that. The Financial Times is saying that the Bitcoin revolution is taking a hit. It isn't keeping up with the circumstances surrounding it, the market circumstances, as well as some of the ordinary currencies. So if you are a Bitcoin dealer, A, you'll see your profits cut, but B, just watch out for the future. And of course, if that sort of advice then says to people, sell, they sell, and in selling, they depress the market, and it goes down in a downward spiral. Here's my wonderful Daily Star. Keep your hair on. Now, what is this all about? I wish I got Andrew Sloan here. He could tell me in a jiffy. That the front page says, keep your hair on, and it's about an employment tribunal in which an electrician was paid off, was given support for his case, that he became a sexual. He suffered sexual harassment because his male boss mocked him for being bald. And the paper calls it a hair-raising tale. I would think it is. I mean, I've been known as baldy by a lot of people. And in fact, at one stage when I was in Northern Ireland and I was involved with the Gloria Hunniford program there, is we actually called me Old Baldy. And it never bothered me in the least. Now people are getting compensation for it. It is from tribunals. It just shows you how mad the world has become. You can call me Baldy anytime. It doesn't bother me, and nor should it bother other people. So those are the papers this morning, and how they reflect what's going on. There are a number of unwritten things. Well, there is one story there about Ukraine, about the war, but there aren't very many, and you can see the shift of emphasis from the one to the other, and it's a great pity, really, that we let these things slide, and they go out of the national conscious. So we actually think, oh well, not too much to worry about there then, because I haven't heard anything. So we really do have to worry. Where are we? It's 4 minutes past 9. Let's take a little look, shall we, at no, that's not what we need. Yes, it is. I think that what we'll do is we will take a look at some of the things that we've got, and here's one that I really like. It's only a little clip, but it's very typical of the way that journalists looked at the civil service during the halcyon days of overseas aid in the 2000s.
We're busy.
Oops.
Working the whole day through, trying to find lots of things not to do. We're busy going nowhere, isn't it just a crime? We'd like to be unhappy, but we never do have the time.
Well, that was a little thing that we dreamed up when I was in the Balkans, because there is no question that those members of various missions for one or two, I mean, mind clearance, for instance, you needed to know what you were doing. If you didn't, then you'd blow your fingers off. But some of the more esoteric things, which needed expertise in, say, human relations and so on and so forth, didn't have people who were experts in human relations, and they were a complete and utter disaster. Except that we don't admit that we have a government. We have a government program that there is anything wrong with it. That we have any disasters. Government is 100% pure and perfect. Until actually about 20 years later, and then everybody decides to have a look back because somebody remembers something somewhere. But the fact is that we don't follow the process. We don't follow our own diktats. We put people into situations overseas in which they are uncomfortable and ill-trained and certainly not totally sympathetic. So, as a consequence, that's where the criticism arises. Why do we put all this money into aid for these third world countries? And the answer is that we shouldn't be doing with some of it. On others, we should have a better monitoring system to see what's going on. That's not so easy either. And it's very typical of lawmakers, isn't it? What we'll do is we'll make a law today saying, stop this, mustn't do that, a la the Queen's speech. And then we expect everybody to stop doing it. But in fact, they have to go, those suggestions, if you like, proposals, have to go through a very, very long and arduous system review before they are implemented. So those things that are coming up in the House of Commons, don't expect to see a huge action for a while. It has to stand the test of examination. I would be very impatient and say, get on with it. But I do accept. There's no sense in saying that. And then 6 months down the line, saying, my God, look at the corruption. Look at where the money's gone. Because the one thing about public money is if it is corruptly taken, there is no getting it back. You don't have the recourses which many private enterprise organizations do. You just have to live your own way of doing things. I've got a little bit of biscuit left. So marvelous. Let's have it. There we go. Very nice. You got your own coffee out right now. Have a cup. Get a bicky. It's time for everybody in the house who works to be outside. It's 9:10 and time that you went to work. Except one of the big headlines this morning is that civil servants, particularly, But let's be careful. We mustn't just blame them, because the whole post-Brexit, post-lockdown situation is that none of us want to go to work anymore. We don't want to get up and be dictated to. Working from home has suited a lot of people very well. The only thing is that our administration in the country is in breakdown. Now, I'm just a little concerned that we may not have the internet that we might expect. Yes, it's all there. It's not. It's not terribly strong this morning, and that affects the picture. And I do apologize if you get a bad one at home. Some things we can attempt to do something about. Others, we're at the mercy of the gods. Getting a picture onto your computer or phone or whatever, or even television set, needs guiding hands. But you've been there, haven't you? If you want such and such, press 1. If you want something else, press 2. If you want a combination of things, press 3. And so it goes on. And if you do press them, then you get put into a queue where you're 38th in line. And lots of people ahead of line, and it suggests that possibly with more pressing engagement than you is what's there for you. So join the frustration and do start a campaign, or get behind a campaign, or at least let the government know that you support them, at least on this one, is to get people back to work. Because otherwise, we're in a dreadful, dreadful mess. Dreadful mess. Now it's 12 minutes past. It's 12 minutes past 9 o'clock, and it is time for most of you to be getting up and getting started and getting cracking. Let's just see what we've got on offer here to take us through for the next 6 or 7 minutes. We don't seem to be doing terribly well at our. Who knows? Let us play what I consider to be an anti-war piece. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many years must a mountain exist before it is washed to the seas? And how many years can some people exist before they are allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? And how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Well, I'm sorry, I should have come back to you. I was busy looking at something else. Uh, there we go. We're back. We're back with you. And I was busy looking at the next bit to put up, and I totally lost track of the fact that we were already playing stuff. So I do apologise. But it's 16 minutes past 9 o'clock. We are broadcasting, and this is Mirador Television, broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in the centre of Lewes. The center of historical activity, if you like, in this very historic town. And although it wasn't here in 1264, when the Battle of Lewes was fought, it wasn't far afterwards, and has been a part of this community for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's still here, and it's still going, and it's still under the patronage of two lovely people, Cliff and Sally Ayres, and they do a terrific job. And actually, coming in here each day it's an eye opener to see the variety of people who do actually come through this hotel. And we try to grab people. Some are reluctant, some aren't, to come and speak on the screen. It's been a bit up and down, but generally speaking, not too bad. Friday is traditionally a very slow day, so if you want to go and watch the dishes, by all means do. We're probably not worth watching today, but but nonetheless, we are here, and let's see if let's see if there's anything else that we can just show you. Yes, I know what we've got to show you, because it is not fair that we should keep going. Without mentioning the one important thing, the important thing for this year, 2022, is going to come up, and there will be celebrations in Lewes in concert with those taking place in London. But in celebrating the 70 years of the Queen's reign, here is our take on the first decade. Should be. 75 magic years. One of the things that we really should take into account is that much of this stuff has taken place in before many people of voting age now, adulthood, maturity, were born. And so, in some ways, these things are new to them, much as they are familiar to us. And we remember the things which we're glad to see at the back of, and those things which we wish we'd kept. The one, of course, that I wish is that we kept steam trains. I recognise the damage to the environment, but surely we could have kept a steam train on each route. There are many organisations, such as the Bluebell Railway here in Lewis, that fight to preserve these old steam trains and its track and what life was like on it. They do a good job, but sometimes they forget that people like us exist and we can help even more. All right, I see that it's up to 1:16, 1:14. My apologies, and even then, that's absolutely wrong. Because it's 22 minutes past 9. What I was looking at was the length of a movie that we've used. So we are well into the time that we come to an end of this. We go away for 10 minutes so we can distribute this program. Then we come back with Affairs from the Heart. And that is a play on words, is the events that swirl around, and as heard through the voice of the White Hart Hotel. And I'm happy to say that we're able to do that. And we do it well, a certain amount of flair and then a certain amount of being very dull and boring. Today we probably will not go longer than our allotted, we'll go not even our allotted time. It looks as if there are some back room shenanigans going on, and we know that we know that the papers have reflected a wide variety of opinions. There's nothing pressing. Well, that's not true. Everything is pressing today. Everything is pressing. And there is a mixture of headlines. I'll just run through those very quickly. The Metro, I think, is the first one we've got up. Or is it? No, it's not. It's the Express. A defiant Truss. We'll rip up the Brexit border deal. And the British government is saying that the deal that was signed over Northern Ireland on us leaving the EU wasn't really serving anybody very well. We need to go back and negotiate it. Well, you think that you actually had shot somebody in the foot, or they're not one hand looking. There is a lot of noise about it. It should never happen and so on. But Boris can get pretty determined. He can be a bit like Putin in this regard, and that is that we need to dissect stuff and to hear what the view of the ordinary man in the street is, far more than we do. Right, okay, the I. Lords try to delay Truss from tearing up Brexit Pact. So she says she's going to tear it up, and the House of Lords, part of the British government, says, oh, no, not such a hurry, you have to get past us. The Daily Telegraph, Lord Frost says to the Prime Minister, on this Northern Ireland protocol, you must tough it out. You must tough it out, because the whole scene and idea of changing from essentially a publicly run organization in many instances to one that is private is an interesting concept, and not one that many people, or I shouldn't say many people, a number of people have never experienced. That's what I'm trying to say. The Guardian. US team flies in amid fear over Northern Ireland deal. So the Northern Ireland deal stays with the Guardian, but they take the tack that the Americans are sending in a team to talk to all the parties involved because they are worried about this particular aspect cave in. One would like to think it's because the Americans have this strong feeling of being Irish, or at least those the headlines do. I suspect that it's really sort of keeping the headline, keeping the newspapers' headings, front pages, onto the web, because those people who are interested won't have gained much from my bumbling explanation on some of these things, and it means that anybody in that volatile country at the moment who has a different opinion to the powers that be, or is known as such, could easily find themselves in difficulty, shall we put it that way. And then that way, Jeremy can't accuse us of putting no, wrong one, of putting what should we say? A spanner in the works. Yes, spanner in the works. The Sun. She's Dame Debs. That's a lady who's done a lot for COVID. 91,000 service jobs to build the axed. That's what we were just talking about. The Times. The Tories risk losing the next election. Jeremy Hunt, who bowed out of politics for a little while. He's now back in the hunt. Excuse the expression. And he's saying that, look, if you don't realize just how severe this cost of living is, and that we've really got to get our act together and find a plan and let people know that we have a plan, rather than these rather facile little comments that you make here and there. I mean, you've picked up from the leaders very quickly. Okay, the Daily Mirror, the home of UK's worst COVID lawbreakers. It's really I want to say bedsit. It's not a bedsit. Well, it is, for all intents and purposes. It's low-cost housing, and people are handed these things out supposedly on a chart that says various things that you must or must not do. It is 9:28, by the way. Shot in the back. That is a story that I just related, where somebody has managed to get a video of the Russian occupying troops in Ukraine picking somebody out and shooting at them and hitting them in the back. The Financial Times, says that the dollar has stayed a fight back. If yes, and it says that markets are in turmoil, and particularly if you're into this Bitcoin stuff, which I personally don't understand. And the Star, keep your hair on. Apparently now it's politically incorrect and hurtful if you call somebody baldy. And that's been determined by a tribunal. Well, you can continue to call me baldy, and I will stay this way, and I don't care. In fact, I almost see it as a badge of honor. It's 9:29. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. And until then, here we go. Toodle, toodle pip.